So a year from now, we're going to be sitting here asking you, what's your plans with Connor McDavid? Are you going to trade him? Are you going to sign him? What's going to happen? How much does the McDavid window provide how much is that a compass for this organization right now? How does it touch every move you make at this point?
Well, we're trying to win, Mark. I mean, we're trying to find a way to win, and we've been doing that. So, those questions are more for Connor as far as what his plans are and his thoughts are. We're on the same page as Connor. We want to win too. So, all the moves that we make are geared towards trying to win the cup next year. We're not building for, like I said, 4 years from now. So I think that it lines up very in the same parallel path where Connor wants to win and we want to win. So that's the way we look at it. No, we can only do that is build this team up the best we can with whether it's trades or signings or development of players from within. It's all with the hopes that it's going to take us to a better result than we have now.
Connor McDavid has heard the criticism before. Not clutch enough, too quiet, too calm, not emotional enough to lead a franchise starving for championship. But this time, the hockey world exploded in a way nobody expected. Because one NHL analyst didn't just criticize McDavid's leadership. He went much further. He questioned whether the best player on earth was actually hurting the Edmonton Oilers as captain. And within hours, the internet turned into a war zone. Fans were furious. Former players jumped into the debate. Sports radio shows lit up across Canada. And suddenly, Connor McDavid, the face of modern hockey, was being dragged into one of the most controversial leadership debates the NHL has seen in years. But that's when everything changed. Because the more people talked about McDavid's failure as captain, the more one uncomfortable question started spreading across the hockey world. What if the Oilers are failing him? And suddenly, the conversation became impossible to ignore. For years, Connor McDavid has carried expectations no player should realistically carry. Every season starts the same way. Stanley Cup or failure. Nothing else matters. Not the points. Not the MVP races. Not the highlight reel goals. Not the impossible speed that leaves defenders frozen in place. If Edmonton doesn't win the cup, somebody gets blamed. And more often than not, that blame lands directly on McDavid. That pressure only grew after the Oilers once again fell short when expectations were sky high. Fans believed this was finally the year. The roster looked dangerous. The offense looked unstoppable. And McDavid was playing at a level most players can't even dream of reaching. But when the playoffs ended, frustration exploded. That's when one analyst threw gasoline onto the fire. The comments spread online almost instantly. Some fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Others actually agreed. And within minutes, hockey Twitter completely melted down. People weren't debating goals anymore. They were debating leadership. Was McDavid too emotionless, too reserved, too focused on performance instead of inspiration? Critics claimed the Oilers lacked urgency when pressure hit hardest. They argued great captains change the emotional temperature of a locker room. And because Edmonton kept falling short, McDavid became the easiest target. But what happened next shocked everyone. The backlash against those comments became massive. Fans flooded social media defending McDavid. Hockey personalities pushed back hard. Even people outside Edmonton started calling the criticism ridiculous. Because to many fans, this entire narrative ignored reality. Connor McDavid has done almost everything humanly possible to drag the Oilers toward contention. He scores. He creates offense out of nothing. He plays through pressure most athletes would collapse under. And year after year, the expectations somehow grow even bigger. That's the impossible part about being Connor McDavid. Being great isn't enough anymore. You have to win everything. Immediately. Or people start questioning your legacy. The NHL world erupted because many fans believed the criticism crossed a dangerous line. There's a huge difference between analyzing playoff failures and pretending the best player alive is somehow the problem. But in today's sports world, controversy spreads faster than truth. And outrage gets attention. That's why this story exploded far beyond Edmonton. Because fans everywhere recognize the pattern. When superstars don't win championships fast enough, the narrative always shifts. People stop talking about talent. They start attacking personality, leadership, emotion, body language, interviews, facial expressions. Suddenly every tiny detail becomes evidence of why they can't win. And McDavid knows that pressure better than anyone. For nearly a decade, he has carried the weight of an entire hockey market on his back. This isn't a normal sports city. Edmonton lives and breathes hockey. Every playoff loss feels personal. Every off-season becomes emotional. And every year without a championship increases the pressure surrounding the franchise superstar. But there's another side to this story that many fans refuse to ignore. The Oilers themselves. Because while McDavid takes the criticism publicly, many believe management deserves far more blame. Over the years, Edmonton has struggled with roster depth, defensive consistency, coaching instability, and goaltending questions. Yet somehow, when things collapse, the spotlight always swings back toward number 97. That frustration is exactly why fans exploded online. Many argued McDavid has already done more than enough to prove his leadership. He stayed loyal to Edmonton despite endless pressure. He continued producing historic numbers. He never publicly attacked teammates. And he repeatedly handled criticism without creating drama. To some fans, that is leadership. Not screaming in interviews. Not throwing teammates under the bus. Not creating headlines. Just showing up every season and carrying impossible expectations without excuses. But critics see things differently. They point to legendary captains from NHL history. Players who lifted championships. Players who controlled locker rooms emotionally. Players who found ways to win no matter the obstacles. And fairly or unfairly, McDavid gets compared to all of them. That's the brutal reality of being called the best player in hockey. You don't get judged against current stars. You get judged against history itself. Wayne Gretzky, Sidney Crosby, Mark Messier. The standard becomes almost impossible. And when championships don't arrive quickly enough, doubt starts growing louder. That's why this controversy became so massive. Because underneath all the arguments about captaincy, there's a deeper fear spreading throughout hockey. What happens if Connor McDavid never wins in Edmonton? It's the question nobody in Canada wants to ask out loud. But after every playoff disappointment, it becomes harder to ignore. Rumors begin. Speculation grows. Fans panic. Could the greatest player of his generation eventually reach a breaking point? That possibility alone terrifies the Oilers fan base. Because players like McDavid almost never exist. And losing him would feel catastrophic for the franchise. That's why emotions exploded after the Analyst's comments. To many fans, attacking McDavid's leadership felt completely disconnected from reality. They see a player carrying historic pressure while constantly producing elite performances. They see someone expected to fix every weakness within the organization by himself. And they are tired of watching the blame fall on one player every single year. But there's also another uncomfortable truth here. Fair or not, championships change everything. Sports history remembers winners differently. One championship can instantly silence years of criticism. One Stanley Cup could completely rewrite the narrative around Connor McDavid forever. Suddenly, the bad captain conversations disappear. Suddenly, the doubters vanish. Suddenly, every sacrifice becomes legendary. That's how brutal professional sports can be. Legacies swing on tiny moments. One playoff run. One overtime goal. One championship banner. And until that breakthrough happens, the pressure surrounding McDavid will never truly disappear. That's what makes this story so fascinating. It's not really about one analyst anymore. It's about modern sports culture itself. A culture where outrage becomes entertainment. Where every playoff loss creates a new target. Where even generational talent gets ripped apart if championships don't arrive fast enough. And in many ways, Connor McDavid has become the perfect example of that reality. Because statistically, he's already one of the greatest players hockey has ever seen. But emotionally, people still debate whether it's enough. And suddenly, the conversation became bigger than hockey. It became about expectations, about pressure, about what fans demand from superstars in the modern era. Some believe true captains are only defined by championships. Others believe leadership cannot be measured by rings alone. That debate is exactly why the NHL world exploded after those comments. Because no matter what side people choose, everyone agrees on one thing. Connor McDavid is carrying one of the heaviest burdens in professional sports. And the scary part? The pressure is only getting bigger. Every season without a Stanley Cup increases the noise. Every playoff loss creates new criticism. Every offseason fuels more speculation. But despite all of it, McDavid keeps showing up, keeps producing, keeps competing, keeps carrying expectations that would crush most athletes. Which is why this controversy refuses to die. Because fans everywhere are still asking the same question. Is Connor McDavid being unfairly blamed for the Oilers' failures? Or is this simply the price of being hockey's biggest superstar? Maybe the truth falls somewhere in the middle. But one thing is certain. The moment those comments went public, the entire hockey world stopped and paid attention. And now, every move McDavid makes will be watched even more closely than before. Because in Edmonton, the pressure never disappears. It only grows louder.